Brendan. It's Here's the Deal with Brendan and Scott. I'm Scott.
Brendan, here's the deal.
Welcome once again. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. We're back. As always, brought to you by Linesight 2020. Linesight2020.com utilizes fully integrated statistical models with deep analytics and a philosophical approach to meaningful performance-based data. That spot always open for new sponsors.
Yeah, we'd love to have somebody partner with us. We've got an audience we think that appreciates good value out there and certified representation if that is your trade.
Yeah, and I think that we're having fun. So if you're a fun kind of company, you want to be here.
Lawyers, guns, and money.
Oh, gosh. I love all that stuff. I think we'll start with a little giveaway. We here love our subscribers. And we always want new ones. And so for the next 10 subscribers to our website, we will have a raffle that will include a very nice Linesight 2020 fleece and 4 tickets to an upcoming SMU basketball game.
2 issues with that. Does anyone ever need to wear a fleece again?
That's a great question.
Is it ever going to be cold? And is SMU going to play basketball?
Well, that's next on my notes, actually, to talk about COVID. I mean, ridiculousness going on all over the country with bowl cancellations. 5 bowls have been canceled. More teams have been displaced because, they canceled the Arizona Bowl. Tony the Tiger beats Dave Portnoy and Barstool Sports, getting Wazoo and Central Michigan to the Sun Bowl. Not sure how you get a team to go from Phoenix to El Paso, but whatever. The Aggies obviously canceled well earlier. Actually, like right after our last podcast dropped, the Aggies canceled, giving the SEC another chance to not lose a game, as they are 0-4 in bowl games currently. And, the COVID around Memphis and Hawaii, the ridiculousness yesterday where UCLA drops out of a bowl game they're going to play that night.
Yeah, 4 hours notice. That's leaving somebody at the altar. There's no question that what they did was unethical, because you would have to assume that they knew that they were right up against that threshold from having to cancel well before 4 hours in front of kickoff.
Yeah,
they knew they were in a bad spot.
Right. Or they just went and took tests that morning somehow. It's the most ridiculous situation I've ever heard of in a bowl game. NC State extra mad, right? Because their kids have a chance to win 10 games for the
second time, I believe. Second
time in the history of the program. And now they don't even get to play. They have no backup, right? Maybe they get into a different bowl game like the aforementioned Wazoo Central Michigan situation, or the Rutgers situation where they replace the Aggies to play Wake Forest in a game we will talk about a little bit later. But NC State totally left at the altar. And COVID has just wrecked the NFL, college football. You had a stretch there of 10 days in which 8 of those days featured NFL football games. That's a bit much, I think. I guess other people are like, oh, this is great. And I would say if you had a game Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, that's too much.
Yeah, it's also handicapping hell. So that's going to be the side where I want sympathy from. It's nice for the entertainment value, to be sure, but it's certainly not fair to the players or the coaches to do that. But the NFL has been very proactive in changing their protocol stance and making it more up to date and as accommodating as it can to the professionals.
Yeah. And, Baker Mayfield, obviously kind of the most outspoken version of this over the last couple of weeks, but, his offering of, oh, well, the NFL's out to make money. Well, here's the deal. Yeah, I think we all know that, right? The NFL is out to make money. It is a professional sports league.
It is for profit.
Yes. And so it's really silly to, oh, that's not fair. Like, come on, man. We all know they're here. But what I do want to talk about next, and this is the stuff you're going to get as a subscriber, right? Is NFL playoffs. We're going to talk a little NFL today, college basketball. We're going to have golf coming up. We're going to have baseball coming up, which is really the bread and butter, really where you get some value out of handicapping is in baseball. And, I wanted to segue COVID into college hoops and let you talk a little bit about that.
College hoops. The season is upon us, sort of. I think yesterday I counted 15 games that were canceled as a result of COVID.
Jeez.
That is not good for our model at all. Our model takes into consideration years of data in which teams play 2 times a week, right? There's a expected amount of practice time, expected amount of film time, recovery time. College basketball is very neatly, or has been until the last couple of years, very nicely put in a box.
There's a good cadence to college basketball.
It is a cadence. It's like a heart rhythm. And this has really been difficult to deal with. Thus far on the season, we are right at 500, 27-27, minus about 4 units, which is, essentially your juice value right there. That's not unheard of. We do that quite a few times historically. As the model gets going, more games equals more precision on that front. But
I think what I like about our college basketball model is the futures.
Yeah.
Right. When we get into the tournament and we've bought futures on some teams that are really underrated at the time, and then we have some really nice hedge opportunities where you're going to make a lot of money.
Right. And that's what this is about. This is about increasing your bottom line. This isn't about fandom and rah-rah or any of those types of things. This is about making a return, and futures is certainly where it's at when it comes to college basketball. And I'm going to get to that in just a second. The total disruption, though, of COVID is making it difficult for us to handicap. And a lot of times we'll have picks ready and those games will get canceled.
We had that the other day, Memphis and Tennessee, right?
Yeah, before I think it was 30 minutes. They were in shoot around and they canceled the game. It does wreak havoc on the ability to get value and then the lasting effects of cancellations. So it's going to be tough. Who knows? What they're doing now is really frustrating, which is they're canceling games like a week in advance. I mean, I've seen games getting canceled for January 5th. I mean, why is that happening? I honestly don't know. Not everybody's doing that, but you are seeing it. It is happening. I'd be surprised, and I tweeted this out the other day, if the Pac-12 plays basketball at all this season. I mean, they're scared of everything over there.
They barely played football.
I can't believe they played a football season. Every single thing that their administrators go through is a joke. And if you're a Pac-12 apologist, if you're a Pac-12 program alum, I simply don't care. Bring it on with your argument, because it is laughable. The rest of the country laughs at you and not with you. So back to what we're talking about in terms of college basketball, just to give a little bit of rundown of the teams. It's a usual suspects kind of a season so far to start. Baylor is absolutely incredible. Both ends of the court. Their defense is nothing short of legendary. They're going to be right back where they were last year. May not be able to cut down the nets, but they're certainly going to be in the conversation the entire year, because as Villanova can attest to, there are no easy baskets against the Baylor Bears.
Is Scott Drew the best coach in the country?
If you would have asked me that 3 years ago, I would have laughed and said,
Right.
Certainly not. But but easily a top 10. I don't think it's necessarily out of the question that he's definitely top 3.
Yeah, because I mean, like you said, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, he was kind of like, well, okay, middle of the pack, maybe a little dirty on some level. But I've heard some stories about him lately that I'm like, I like the guy now. Like I root for him.
Yeah, I like him, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for him in the fact that he has built a program from the dead. Can you say that?
Yeah. Yes.
And
the dead drug dealers,
and turned it into something truly magnificent and a destination program. And he stayed there the whole time.
And he's turned Waco into a place where people want to play college basketball, not just people visiting the silos for Chip and JoJo.
Man.
you didn't think the podcast was going to go to Chip and JoJo.
I wasn't emotionally prepared for that. But in addition to Baylor, Duke's looked awfully strong as well. And Coach K's farewell tour, Purdue is stacked. I mean, 10 deep, physical. Gonzaga is not what they were last year, but they're really good. They're going to get into conference play. They're going to run that table again. They're going to be right back where they always are.
They've got the stick man, who's the projected number 1 pick in the draft. Like, I think my kids draw thicker people than him on pieces of paper.
Yeah. Flat Stanley.
Yes.
And before we get too far gone on just any one individual team, Kansas and Iowa State. First of all, Iowa State's undefeated. That came out of nowhere. They are playing obviously tremendous basketball to be undefeated as we head into January. So the Big 12, once again, is completely loaded. I mean, completely loaded. It is the best basketball conference there is. This
is what we were talking about the ACC years ago. I mean, it's remade in the Big 12 now.
It is. And I would say you have far fewer cupcakes. I mean, no one's talking about TCU, and they're at double-digit wins already.
Dang.
And so it's going to be a grind. It's going to be a heck of a season. It always is, assuming we get games. And you mentioned futures earlier, Scott. So here's the deal on futures. You want to take a look, particularly right now, at maximum value out there on teams that are going to be second weekend types of teams when it comes to the NCAA tournament that are off the beaten path. Maybe teams that have tons of talent and haven't quite gelled. Usually you'd say like a Kentucky type of team that is really young, inexperienced, plays a tough non-conference game, drops a few games, and then the next thing you know, they roll through the SEC in a pretty strong fashion and are playing deep into March. I do have 4 teams for our listeners to keep an eye out for. I'm not going to give any future totals on that. We'll save that for the website, but keep an eye on San Francisco.
The Dons.
The Dons are fantastic this year. They have been fantastic for a while. But look at them this year in the futures market to make a run. Same to be said for Loyola Chicago. Also, we know we've got Sister Jean still kicking, still
rooting from the sidelines.
And I think as long as she's a part of that program, I don't know why you wouldn't take maximum value on that. Just
God is clearly on their side.
And then two teams that people aren't really talking about in terms of national focus, but that are going to be strong, I think, and just continue to build on their season. Texas Tech and their new coach, Mark Adams, and Providence. Providence is 11-1, sneaky good.
Okay.
Those are my 4 teams to keep an eye on right now. We'll just throw that out there as a carrot. And obviously we'll talk a lot more in depth about college basketball as the football page starts to wrap up.
Yeah. So Chris Beard leaves Tech for Texas, takes half the players, and Texas Tech is still good.
Yeah.
And Texas is okay.
They're fine.
They're fine. All right. Come and subscribe, get all that college basketball info that we give out to our subscribers and make a little money. Let's talk a little bit about the NFL. We've had a really nice NFL run the last 5 weeks. 19-12 overall, plus 10 units And, last week, a couple of things stood out, to me from the games that we handicapped. Colts plus 1.5 at the Cardinals. The Cardinals are just in a tough way right now. I can't really tell what's wrong exactly. They just can't win games.
No DeAndre Hopkins. That's the biggest thing that's wrong with them. There's a rapport between Kyler Murray and Hopkins. And I love Christian Kirk. I love AJ Green. Those are super talented guys. Zach Ertz, also super talented. There is a disconnect when they are running their routes about where Kyler Murray is going to hit them with the ball. You can tell whenever they're walking back to the huddle, there's a lot of shoulder shrugging, hands and palms up. And, but Kyler Murray is also 5'2", and it's hard for him to see over defenders.
Yeah, if you mix Kyler Murray and Gonzaga's big man, you got a real problem. We had the Dolphins plus 3.5 on Monday Night Football. That line moved all the way to Dolphins minus 2.5, I think. But that was just a great spot for Miami. I mean, New Orleans was injured, obviously, and down to Ian Book, which is not ideal, I think. And Tua's playing all right, but the Saints coming off a shutout of Tom Brady, and we also took Tampa Bay against Carolina just to lay the wood, right? I mean, Brady's not gonna. He's been shut out once since 2004 or something.
But bounce back Brady is one of the best angles that there is in sports. He took out his frustrations on the New Orleans coaching staff. Then he took it out on his MacBook or whatever they use down there.
It was a Surface.
A Surface.
Yeah, we want Microsoft as a sponsor, so let's not. Hell, I'll take Apple. Whatever.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to be too picky about those types of companies. We can be bought, and so the other thing about Brady and coming back from those games is he was going against a divisional opponent, someone that he has in his two previous meetings, meaning last year. I mean, the Bucs absolutely punished them with no mercy. So it was a great spot for the Bucs. We probably should have thrown more than 2 units on that. Once you get in a double-digit spread, though, that we get a little bit more conservative.
Yeah, one of the bounce back spots that didn't work. New England at home, kind of for an AFC East title against the Bills. Belichick normally great, right? Hasn't lost 2 divisional games apparently in 75 years since coming off a loss. He is 124-2. I think you wrote up.
Yeah, that sounds right.
The one we really liked a lot and was just a bad beat, I think, is we had the Giants and the Eagles under 41.
Boy.
The Giants and the Eagles score 6 points in the first half, and we are high-fiving, and then Philadelphia scores 31 points in the second half, blows our under. What a pain in the butt. The last one we'll talk about, well, we could brush by the Steelers. The Steelers are confusing to me. They were plus 10.5 at Kansas City, and no Kelsey for Kansas City. Big Ben, not great, but they've got running backs, they've got defense. They just kind of middle along. You think, all right, they can get within 10 against an opponent like the Chiefs, but the Chiefs are hot.
Red hot. Don't want to be on the other side of Patrick Mahomes right now.
No. And then the last one, Sunday Night Football, the Cowboys. I think we read a lot of stuff. We listen to a lot of stuff. And the stuff that I was listening to was, man, this is a great spot for the Redskins. It's plus 10.5 at the time. And the Cowboys are fat and happy. They clinched a playoff spot. They've had a real tough time on offense for the last 4 or 5 weeks. And I kind of thought the other way. I said, well, the Redskins are off a really short week. They played on Tuesday. They're banged up, and they were just down to this Cowboys team 24-0 at halftime 2 weeks ago. And I said, what's changed? I mean, the Cowboys got to get it together on offense. That's where all the talent is. And so if you've had several bad games on offense and you're still covering, what happens when the offense clicks? And I think that's what we saw.
It was a thing of beauty. It was also a thing of sadness to see the marriage between Payne and Jonathan Allen come to blows. That looks like it needs some serious marriage counseling in order to repair. But they're going to be just fine. They've probably gotten a few spats before over whose turn it was to do the dishes. But I will say, I think here's the deal with the Cowboys. They are getting hot at the right time on every single position on the team. I was even impressed with the offensive line on Sunday night. And I haven't been able to say that for a while.
And that's no Tyron
Smith.
Yeah. Right. And I don't know when the last time the Cowboys won a game without Tyron Smith was, other than this season. I mean, he's been a really weird keystone to that team. So yeah, Cowboys getting hot. This is a McCarthy thing too. He is terrible in November. I mean, he's like 1-10 in November, and he's really good when it gets down to December and you get the games that start to mean things.
Yep.
All right. That is our NFL recap again. 19-12 over the last 5 weeks for those subscribers, plus 10 units. Get in there, get subscribed, get to be part of the raffle, go to an SMU game, get a sweet fleece that you'll never be able to wear in Dallas. But hey, that's what we're here to do, is give away things that are of no use to you. All right, let's get back to the bowls. Just a quick recap. Not a great second segment. 2-7 in those bowls, and 8-13 overall, minus 9.8 units. Yeah, I think we had similar unsuccess kind of one time in our history, 2014-15. After December 29th, we were down 7 units. And then what did you see there? We
finished up 11 units after the December 29th games. And that was the Cardale Jones season for Ohio State. For those who can't recall, the semifinal game, we went big on the Buckeyes, getting 8.5 points, and they absolutely hammered Nick Saban. So that led a very strong comeback. We ended up 11 units. So we made up some serious ground those last few days of bowl season. But these things happen. You can get in a rut. Our computer models don't take into consideration when these games are played or situationally what they are, particularly with the new era of opting out of games for star players that changes the complexion of the entire matchup, and any sort of COVID activity that's never been in play before. Perhaps we'll be able to start putting in some sensitivities in there that may account for that in the future, but we're going at this a little bit blind. We're still supremely confident in the remaining bowl plays. So without further ado, let's look at today's first matchup. Virginia Tech +4 against Maryland for 1 unit. That's where we're going to start.
Yeah, Virginia Tech, obviously coaching issues, right? They get rid of Justin Fuente. Was he
Former
still there?
Oklahoma quarterback.
Yeah. Where do you sit on that one?
Getting rid of Fuente
or just Virginia Tech in general?
I think Virginia Tech is a disaster, but I did notice that Mike Loxley is also coaching in this game for Maryland, and he's pretty bad and has a track record of being pretty bad. I don't like Maryland much at all. So this is a take the points kind of game. Virginia Tech at least has a defense, and they were able to shut down Virginia in the finale of their season. So that gives a little bit of glimmer of a hope. Again, defense, if you've got a defense that can make tackles and get the other team off the field, that's always going to play well for us, particularly in bowl games. The interesting fact in this game is that Braxton Burmeister is not going to be playing quarterback for the Hokies, who's been their quarterback all season. Not that he's anything great, but he is a transfer. He's not in school any longer. So they're going to use Texas A&M transfer Connor Blumrick, who doesn't pass the ball at all. Literally, I think he's made one pass.
That's amazing.
He's a running guy, but again, Burmeister didn't really pass much either. I think his completion percentage was 55%. So Maryland allowed 32 points a game. They've got nothing on defense. 4-8 against the spread over the season. 1-7 against the spread their last 8 games. I think this game has a futures pick written all over it. So I'll pose you this question, Scott. Will the Yankees hit more home runs in 2022 than there are going to be fans today at the Pinstripe Bowl?
Yes. I think that's 100%. Aaron Judge gets healthy, and I think he may hit more home runs than our fans at this game.
Okay. I think that's a good side to be on.
But yeah, two not great offenses, two not great defenses, but relatively Virginia Tech with a much better defense in this particular game. So we're taking Virginia Tech plus 3.5.
Four. We
plus
got that thing at
4. Plus 4 in the Pinstripe Bowl. So let's go to, I love the Cheez-It Bowl. I just love Cheez-Its, and that's a good bowl snack.
Is Dabo going to get doused with crackers?
Which kind of crackers is my question?
Well, Cheez-It.
Well, I know Cheez-It, but there's like a lot of
flavors.
Oh yeah, tons of flavors.
Huh?
Cheez-It Grooves, Cheez-It regular cheddar, white cheddar, Parmesan. I mean, look, I can go down the list of Cheez-Its if you want me to, but this podcast is more focused on this game, which is Clemson minus 1.5 against Iowa State. The total is 45.5. Clemson finished the season really strong. They kind of found their legs on offense. Not that they were playing a bunch of great teams, but they were scoring a lot of points. And so, that was their bugaboo early in the season, was they really couldn't score. They could play defense, but they really couldn't score. And so I like the fact that they ended the season much, much stronger on offense. Where are you sitting on this one?
Well, does it not scare you that Tony Elliott's not calling plays anymore? Is that an asset or a liability?
Well, I would say that whatever they fix at the end of the season, if it was Tony Elliott, then it would probably be a liability. But they also don't have Brent Venable, which is going to hurt as well, as he's off to Oklahoma.
To me, this game comes down to Breece Hall sitting out.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge deal to a team, and then to a lesser degree, an offense that totally underperformed the entire season. Brock Purdy was a Heisman contender in the preseason. You can say all you want to about Spencer Rattler being the front runner and how that ended up playing out, but Brock Purdy was being talked about right underneath him on the sheet of Heisman favorites. And here's a statistic that jumped out at me. He played 12 football games so far this year. He threw 18 touchdown passes.
Dang.
That is not Heisman worthy. I just don't think Iowa State really showed much of anything. It's almost like they played one game this year that was up to their potential, and that was beating Oklahoma State, which was a great showing back in October. And now they're going against a team, even though they've had the coaching departures as we've touched on, but they did finish strong, as you mentioned, 5 straight wins. And in those last 2, you got a 21-point beatdown of Wake Forest and a 30-0 shutout of South Carolina.
Solid. The Iowa State thing, Brock Purdy throws 18 touchdowns. Bailey Zappi for Western Kentucky, 62 touchdowns. I think those two things are different. The Brock Purdy thing, Iowa State expected to win 9.5 games, expected to probably compete for the Big 12 or at least play in the Big 12 title game before the season. And you're right, massive underperformers here. So we are going to take Clemson. It's a minus 1.5 for 1 unit in the Cheez-It Bowl. All right, let's head down to San Antone, a time that I spent some years down there learning about all things political science and meth and meth. But this is the Alamo Bowl, and it's Oregon +7 against Oklahoma. What do you got here?
Well, no one is looking forward to the Alamo, let alone remembering it. This is not going to be worth watching. We're going to watch it, but it's probably not worth our time. We're going to ride with the Sooners -7 points for 1 unit. Bob Stoops returning to the sideline, coaching Oklahoma. So does that mean that Oregon's getting Mike Bellotti back to coach the Ducks?
Yes, I think so. Stoops and his no chin versus Mike Bellotti.
And his tremendous mustache.
Oh, so good.
Caleb Williams will play. That's the difference in this game for me. He's going to have a big stage, and I think that the big game Bob's just going to let him do his thing. And I think that's going to actually turn out pretty well for the Sooners. Oregon is 88th in pass defense this season. And I know I touched on that when we covered Oregon State for their bowl game. That Duck defense is pretty bad. They'll also be without Kayvon Thibodeau.
Mm-hmm.
They're much ballyhooed defensive end. And their secondary they just don't cover well in space. Really all Bob Stoops needs to do is throw on some film of Utah playing Oregon as the blueprint, because Oregon, if you hit them, they are going to go down. There's been no oversight in practice during the bowls, because you got a new coaching staff moving in with Dan Lanning coming over from Georgia, and he is not even he's probably picked up the phone a few times for recruits, but he is squarely focused on trying to deliver Georgia a national championship, which he should be doing. I just don't think those things set up real well for Oregon in this game. It wouldn't shock me, I guess, if they pulled off the upset, but I think Oklahoma's got a heck of a lot more continuity than Oregon does, even though they had Lincoln Riley head for the Hollywood Hills.
Yeah, I mean, who have they beaten? They beat Ohio State early in the season.
That was a big win.
Just confusing at this point to look at that team and say they beat Ohio State in the shoe. Very, very strange win. Oregon, again, as you said, really faltered down the stretch, just getting slapped around by Utah. Utah hit you. We really like Utah a lot. And so in this one, Oklahoma -7 in the Alamo Bowl. That is going to be for 1 unit. Here's another one of my favorite named bowls, the Duke's Mayo Bowl.
Have you ever enjoyed Duke's Mayo on a personal level?
Well, I love mayonnaise. One of our friends, Casey Harper, has an aversion to mayonnaise. I do not. So when they show a kid on the screen eating a spoonful of mayonnaise out of a Duke's Mayo container during this bowl game, I was like, all right, I can see that.
So do you put it on a sandwich, or what's your go-to with the usage?
I will put mayo on a lot of things. Sandwich for sure. I mean, that's the obvious. I'll put it on a hot dog. I'm not scared.
That's super gross, man. Let's talk football.
All right, let's talk about North Carolina -9.5 against South Carolina in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. The total is 58. Mac Brown, very good bowl coach. Very good bowl coach. What's his record these days in bowls?
14-9 is what I saw.
14-9 with a national championship in the Rose Bowl with Texas in 2005. That doesn't mean anything here. I just like to always mention that because it's fun to watch. North Carolina, Sam Howell, up and down year, Heisman hopeful, kind of a Brock Purdy type of situation. Probably going to be a high draft pick. I personally don't like Sam Howell. I didn't like him last year. I didn't like him this year. How do you feel?
I like Sam Howell a lot. I have liked him. I don't think that he's even remotely in the same stratosphere as Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy fetches water for Sam Howell, as far as I'm concerned. But the season hasn't gone as well for North Carolina based on preseason predictions. In the same vein as Iowa State, they finished 6-6 after being a preseason top 10 team. It's got shades of some Mac Brown Texas seasons, but here's the deal. Someone is getting doused at the end of this game with a bucket of mayonnaise. And I just don't envision that being Mac Brown.
You're really
I don't think Sally would sign off on that. I think that's ripe with problems. I think Shane Beamer is full of energy and welcomes the Mayo being dumped on him.
I think South Carolina finished the season strong, apart from the 30-0 loss to Clemson at the end of the season. But they were playing really good football there at the end. And I think I like them in this situation. A much better defense from South Carolina, a much better offense from North Carolina. So it'll be kind of strength on strength in this particular scenario. Anything else from you on this one?
Just to follow up on what you said on the way that South Carolina finished the season, lots of team concept that Shane Beamer's building there. I mean, even in losses, the guy's smiling. You can tell he's very happy. I think his team exceeded his expectations by going 6-6 and getting in a bowl game, scoring wins over Auburn and Florida down the stretch. Those were impressive, regardless of the situation that those teams were in. And I think that he's probably holding very tough practices this week. And if I know Mac Brown, I doubt that he's holding very difficult practices this week. Yeah. I think we're going to roll South Carolina plus the 9.5 for a unit.
Thank you, sir. Music City Bowl. We go to Nashville, Tennessee, another great city. Another great bowl game. Tennessee -6 against Purdue here. The total is 63. Tennessee with Josh Heupel, tons of pace, right? They're going to play real fast, and a much better offense than Purdue in this particular one. Purdue has a little better defense here, but how do you see this one breaking down?
So just this morning, we are going to, as this line continued to inch up, we are going to take Purdue plus the 6 points for a unit, and we're going to ride that total over 63.5 for 2 units. Again, nothing's better for a total than breakneck pace that Tennessee runs, and Purdue can throw it around. Here's a statistic that I found very interesting in covering this game in terms of analysis. Aiden O'Connell threw for over 1,600 yards in the last 4 games for Purdue. That's you said you did math down in San Antonio. What
Sometimes.
is that? What is that per game? 1,600 yards in 4 games. How many is that average?
That is 400 yards per game.
Attaboy, Scotty. Boom. We know plenty of Vol fans out there, very few Purdue fans, but we're going to, or at least I do. Boiler up for me. I think this is a coin flip game. Last possession wins it. Take the 6 points. And I do think, I think we're looking at 50 points minimum scored in the first half alone. So let's ride that as our stronger of the 2 plays. And just historically, Purdue's last 5 bowl games have all gone over. They've got a former quarterback as their head coach. He's offensive centric to begin with. Bowl games are about offenses typically. So I feel pretty good about those two bets in this game.
Well, Clay Travis does not approve of your pick here since we're going against his Tennessee Vols in his hometown of Nashville. But we will do that anyways. Purdue plus 6 for 1 unit, over 63.5 for 2 units in the Music City Bowl. Now we'll head down to a beautiful ATL in the Peach Bowl. Pittsburgh plus 2.5 now against Michigan State. Total is 56. This is the opt-out bowl.
It seems like nobody wants to play in this guy, which is really sad because the Peach Bowl is a great bowl. Great history. I was really excited when this announcement was made that they were going to be playing each other, because you got Kenny Pickett on one side and Kenneth Walker III on another. I mean, that's two
Kennys.
That's a great. Can't ever have too many Kennys.
No doubt.
Kenny Powers, probably my favorite. So we're going to go ahead and just take Pittsburgh plus the 3 for a unit. Might as well get points in this game. Narduzzi has a much better defense than Mel Tucker. Has
strange to say that, right?
At Michigan State. But I will say that one of the things about Pickett not playing is he is going to be replaced by Nick Patty. And he's completed 86% of his passes this year.
That's a lot.
He's 12 for 14. Not too shabby.
Prolific passer, Nick Patty.
But I do think that Narduzzi was shown that if you make Michigan State one-sided and make, their quarterback Thorne throw the ball, that they can certainly be had. I think that's definitely a deficiency in addition to the weakness of the Spartan defense.
Yeah, two teams that have totally outperformed this season. Pittsburgh expected to win 7 games. They win 11. Michigan State expected to win 4 games this season, and Mel Tucker got a big old raise. I think this game, maybe kind of like the earlier games, really brings up a good point about we like to pick all the bowls. It's fun, from a handicapping standpoint to look at all these games. I think most handicappers don't pick every bowl game, right? They kind of pick here and there. They're going to stay away from some things that seem weird. This one's probably one of those that we would stay away from normally with these guys sitting out. But here on the Here's the Deal podcast, we like to give all of the entertainment and all of the information. And so for this Peach Bowl, we're taking Pittsburgh plus 2.5 for 1 unit.
3 points. We got it at 3 this morning.
Plus 3 for 1 unit. The Las Vegas Bowl. Here's one that we would definitely be picking in any instance because we've got Wisconsin -6, a total of 41.5 in the Las Vegas Bowl. It's a late night game on December 30th. I know you really like this one, so I'll let you kick it off.
Take Wisconsin -6 for 2 units. Love this game. I'd like to go to this game mostly because it's in Las Vegas, but I really enjoy watching high character guys, good team players like Wisconsin's going to show, going against prima donnas and coaches that couldn't stop cheating if you paid them to. And I'm pretty sure the administration at Arizona State has offered Herm Edwards more money to stop cheating.
And yet he cannot do that.
He cannot do it. He will not, cannot, won't not. He's like stubborn Sam I am. I do think that the Sun Devils are in absolute turmoil. Herm, even though you play to win the game, you still can't cheat the rules all the time. You have to play within them on some level. The Sun Devils, they just finished the season super ugly. Their only win against a bowl team was UCLA.
Not a bowl team.
Oh, not a bowl team, just in not a bowl team are the Bruins. And that was on October 2nd. They've been a complete downward spiral type of team since then. I don't think they're going to want any part of the physical demonstration that they're going to get from Wisconsin. Well, will absolutely just beat you down.
Yeah, and Wisconsin opposite, right? They didn't play well early in the season, and they finished quite strong. Really, really good defense for Wisconsin. 90.1 in defensive efficiency. Arizona State, not good on defense or on offense. Wisconsin's offensive numbers are down a little bit, but I think, again, they got better at the end of the season. They're getting hot at the right time. They've got the coaching character. They're tough. Big Ten team. The only hesitation was, well, it's late for their body clock. Arizona State's kind of in the same time zone, but we don't care. Right.
I mean, Wisconsin's a party school, so I don't think that they're going to have any issues by doing the jump around deal. That I assume they're going to play that in the bowl game, right?
I mean, if you sneak up into the press box and press play, I think that's fine.
Well, I think we're going to see it. I think this game has blowout potential in it, even though you're talking about a team that does everything time of possession related and kind of milks the clock a little bit. They're 16th in the nation in rushing. I think they're going to just shove it down their throat the whole game. So let's do that. 2 units on Bucky the Badger.
Yeah, the lowest point total in the bowl games, 41.5 in this one. All right, let's move to Florida, where, Wake Forest, he was going to play A&M, and now they get Rutgers. Quite the swing for the Demon Deacons there. Wake Forest minus 14.5, a total of 62 in the Gator Bowl. I mean, we like Wake Forest here. There's no reason not to. Rutgers is terrible. I don't know how they won 5 games. I don't know how they got invited to a bowl. They have no fans. They're in New Jersey. Well, you know what? That's why, because it's in Florida, right? This game's in Florida, where all the New Jersey people go to winter, and so
that's right.
You can get some Rutgers fans maybe that way.
It's a dynamite fit.
Yeah. So Wake Forest, clearly, I mean, they're 50 points better in offensive efficiency in this particular game. Rutgers has a slight edge on defense, but not much. You know, both not great defenses either. But we like Wake Forest to toss around here.
So as we were doing the deep dive into the analytics here, I came up with my own analytic that's completely off the page and out of the spreadsheet, because I was curious as to different angles we could pitch on this. So Wake Forest lost 3 games this season. Great season for Wake Forest. Everybody's pumped up about it. The lowest point total by a team that beat them was 45 points. So that tells you got to score some points. Wake's going to score. You're going to have to score some points to beat them. Check this out, Scat.
I'm ready.
Rutgers has scored 43 points total in their games beginning with their October 16th game. Total.
That's incredible.
That's combined. I don't see this getting past the second half. I really don't at all. I mean, Rutgers defense is fine, but you're still talking about 79th in the country in yards allowed. It just, the only reason we can't put more units on this is the nature of what happened to get to this game, the disruption that it caused within the Wake program. I mean, if you're preparing for a strong SEC team like Texas A&M, and the next thing you know, you get Rutgers.
It's fun
as a replacement. Who knows? I mean, the Wake players may have really just taken the week off and had fun down there in Florida. So let's be a little bit conservative on that, but I mean, they should cover. We're going to take the 14.5 chalk for a unit and a half. And for those who are subscribers, you may just want to put more on it than that.
Yeah. One final fun Rutgers fact: 2-7 against the spread down the stretch, an average losing margin against the spread of 20 points. So not only were they losing games against the spread, they were getting blown out. They had a very strange game in there against Indiana, but man, they are bad. And we love Wake Forest here. All right, moving on to the aforementioned Sun Bowl. I call this the Spencer Morris Bowl. This is Washington State -7 against Central Michigan. Tony the Tiger again beats out Barstool Sports to grab Central Michigan over to face Wazoo, and this is a good matchup for Washington State. Way better on offense, way better on defense, stronger schedule. This is a sweet spot for Washington State. They don't have to leave.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Checking out of your hotel that you've already spent several days in is a complete beating.
Yeah, we kind of liked Central Michigan against Boise, but here is just a killer for them from a matchup standpoint. How do you see this one going?
Let's do the Wazoo Cougars minus the 7 points for 2 units. I really like the way Wazoo finished the season. So they fired their coaching staff for non-COVID compliance at the state level, which was very weird. But then again, you shouldn't live in Washington State. That's going to be another Pac-12 ding right there. And once they did that, however, maybe that's what everybody should do, because they went 6-2 their final 8 games. They had huge wins against Oregon State, Arizona State, and then they pummeled their rival Washington in the Apple Cup. I mean, they smacked them around like it was like it's never been seen before. I don't recall when the last time Washington State would have beaten Washington by that, but it was like a 30-point beatdown.
Yeah, 40-13 in that game.
Woo, that's big. You look at a team like Central Michigan, the MAC is involved here.
Yep.
They played a couple Power 5 teams this year, 28-point loss to LSU, 10-point loss to Missouri. I think Wazoo is significantly better than both of those teams. And I will say this just to give a compliment to Central Michigan. They do have a receiver, Khalil Pimpleton. That is correct. That's his name. He is quite something. I look for him to actually have a pretty big game against Wazoo, but Wazoo is going to I think they win this game maybe by 20 points.
Yeah, 8-1 against the spread down the stretch. Washington State was, and like you said, absolutely just pounding teams going down. I'll give another compliment to Central Michigan. They're on the public side in this one. 65% of the public on the Chippewas. We are on the other side because we are on the right side. Washington State -7 for 2 units. And I think when we get down to these bowls, these are teams we've seen play a lot.
Yeah.
Right. This is a lot more information, for our eyeballs to take in. And that is no different for the first of our playoff games, the Cotton Bowl in Dallas, Texas at Jerry World on New Year's Eve. Cincinnati +13 against Alabama, a total of 58.5 in this game. And I think when this first came out, it was 14.5 Cincinnati. And we both looked at it and said, kind of like Cincinnati, they can play and they can stay within that line. And there was probably a little bit of recency bias from Alabama in the SEC championship game, which we'll talk about the same with Georgia here in a second. But man, if you look at the stats, Alabama is just so much better. They're better defensively. They're better offensively. Clearly, they play a stronger schedule. And Alabama -13 is going to be a max play for us at 3 units.
We're going to go 3 units with it. The best I could give is 13.5.
Okay.
Either way, you're sitting at only needing to cover 2 touchdowns. I know that sounds like a lot, but here's the deal. Alabama plays at Jerry World once a season. They're there as often as the New York Giants play there. They might be able to beat the New York Giants as they play at Jerry World. Alabama allows 88 yards per game against the run.
Yeah,
that's pretty remarkable on a admittedly down season for the Crimson Tide. Nick Saban owns the semifinals. I mean, you're giving him 3 weeks to prepare for his opponent, and he has shown to be the master in all of those instances. What I kept coming back to was envisioning Cincinnati trying to get a little bit cute, taking some good spots to do trick plays or fake punts, things of that nature. And Nick Saban has seen all of that. His teams are prepared for that. They see that throughout the year. Teams look at them, they look at what their jersey says, and it freaks them out, and people go into panic mode, desperation mode early. So nothing's going to surprise this team. They're just super, super prepared. And I mean, Cincinnati's a great story. I'm glad they're in there. I think they deserve to be in this game, but Bryce Young is going to have a field day with the secondary. If Clayton Tune, who's a good quarterback for Houston, can throw for 250 yards against Cincinnati, which happened in the last game of their season, their conference championship game, I can only imagine what the Heisman Trophy winner is going to be able to do there.
Yeah, I love Nick Saban, obviously, with a bunch of time to prepare. I mean, he's great anyways, but he's got a bunch of time to prepare in this one. And I think the SEC being 0-4 in bowl games currently, I think they kind of want to make a statement in these two games to say, look, these guys don't belong here, and we're going to show them why. And so a little bit of motivation there for Bama. I mean, I guess you don't need very much more of motivation because the national championship game is on the line. But we love max play 3 units, Alabama minus 13.5 in the Cotton Bowl. And on the other side of the playoff bracket, we've got the Orange Bowl in Miami. It's Georgia minus 7.5 against Jim Harbaugh and Michigan. The total in this game, 44.5. So a low total. Again, with two really, really strong defenses. How do you cap this one?
Well, I probably wouldn't get much fanfare in my home if I went with the Wolverines, considering my lovely wife is a Georgia alum. I think that this game is very ripe with recency bias on both sides. The world got to watch Michigan win the Big Ten title 42-3 against hapless Iowa. And then they got to watch all world, all legend, 85 Bears defense, Georgia get stomped around pretty good in Atlanta by their kryptonite, which is Alabama. If this game had taken place in front of those games, I think Georgia's an 11 or 12 point favorite against Michigan.
Yeah.
And that's Michigan coming off an Ohio State win. I think that this line is completely inaccurate. I do think Michigan's an awesome team, also deserving to be there, but they're small. They're not big. Alabama has some big bodies, and that can play against Georgia. Georgia has their own mental hurdle to overcome as far as Alabama is concerned, but Alabama has that size. Michigan does not have that size. Those running backs are not big.
Mm-hmm.
McNamara is not big. McNamara is nothing like Bryce Young.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's good, but he's no Bryce Young, and I don't think anybody would think anything other than that. I think Stetson Bennett is the X factor here. If he can keep his composure, put that SEC championship game behind him, which he did not play well, and just play like he's capable of playing, both running it when things break down the field, avoiding a pass rush from Aiden Hutchinson, I think they're going to win, and I think they're going to win convincingly. I think they're going to have a struggle. I don't pretend that that's not in the cards, but at the end of this, Michigan wants to run the ball, and Georgia is still number 4 in the country at stopping the run. I just see them controlling the line of scrimmage like they've done every single game up until that last game, and somewhat dominating this.
Yeah.
How about yourself? What do you think?
It's a low total again, 44.5 here. Typically points mean more from a side standpoint, but I'm absolutely with you. I capped this game at 10.5 or 11 if it's played before the SEC championship game. And so, there's that massive recency bias. I love Georgia minus 7.5. Line Sight 2020 loves Georgia minus 7.5. We're going to do that one for 2.5 units. So we got a lot of play in the playoff games. So we ring in 2022 with the Outback Bowl. That is Penn State plus 1.5 against Arkansas. 47.5 being the total in this one. These two teams started out real hot. Arkansas, especially, lots of love at the beginning of the season. Then they kind of take it on the chin in the middle of the season. They kind of falter down the stretch. Same for Penn State. This was the most confusing thing to me for Penn State season. James Franklin hasn't won anything, right? And they give him 10 more years.
Which version of James Franklin?
The right one.
Okay.
That is an off-air joke. But for this one, I would stay away typically, but again, we play all the bowl games. I actually love the total here. I love the total under 47.5 for 1 unit. That's what we love. And then we also like Penn State plus 1.5. What's your handicap here?
So I'm glad you mentioned that total, because we are going to lock that thing in at 48.5, which is what that thing is going at BetMGM right now. I would recommend maybe even holding off a little bit, a few days, to let these people continue to hit the over action so that number rises. We're going to go Penn State plus the 1.5 for unit and the under 48.5 for 1 unit, mostly because James Franklin wants to play an ugly game. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is very evident. He doesn't have a lot of faith in his offense. That's shown in the way that they've played all season, even in victories. It seemed like they weren't ready to go for the throat when they had that huge game against Auburn back in September. Arkansas also content, run the ball. I like both teams. I think it's going to be a really fun game to watch, but I think it's going to be ugly. Things that jump out: Nittany Lions 7th in the country in points allowed. One opt-out that's going to be a significant part against Arkansas is their sack leader, Trey Williams, not going to be there. So that's a huge advantage for Penn State in terms of not having disruption for Sean Clifford. You got Arkansas 14th in the country in running the ball. And the hidden historical component is that the under is 8-1 in Arkansas's last 9 bowl games. Not that those are the same players or anything like that, but it does tend to favor defense, running the ball. Let's keep those totals under, because what we really see, and here's the deal on this game: tick, 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 time of possession. That's just how Franklin wants it. And I don't think that Sam Pittman's altogether that different from that. I think they're cut from the same cloth. One thing I do, even though we're going to be on Penn State and are on Penn State, I want to see Bumper Pool hit Sean Clifford so hard his mama feels it. That is what I want to see on this game.
Penn State quarterbacks are all the same. They're all these milquetoast little white guys that just can't play. Kerry Collins, is that the best one you can come up with?
I actually watched the Kerry Collins-led Nittany Lions 1995 Rose Bowl against Oregon about 5 days ago, and all I could think was my dear friend and teammate in high school, touchdown Tom Woodside, and the massive amount of boulders that he played with in terms of shoulder pads. The shoulder pad fashion 25 years ago was off the charts. I mean, it was massive. It looked like racks of ribs up on people's shoulders.
I think that's why the clothes were so baggy in the 90s as well. They had to get over the shoulder pads.
Yep, that's a good point.
All right. We're going to go total here, under 48.5 for 1 unit. Penn State plus 1.5 for 1 unit in the Outback Bowl. All right. The Fiesta Bowl is always a fiesta when the Big 12 Oklahoma State will take on Notre Dame. In this game, Oklahoma State plus 2.5. Total is 45.5 out in the desert. Here again, we like the total under 45.5 for 1 unit. And we like Oklahoma State.
Stop the show one more time.
Golly.
That total is up to 46.
Okay.
So we are going to go under on that. It's even half a point better. Oklahoma State, we're still going to ride at that 2.5 number. I don't see it getting to 3. I think the odds makers, the books are pretty comfortable with it at the 2.5. So yeah, let's do much like we did the Outback Bowl. Let's keep a unit on both the total and the side. I'm really excited to see Oklahoma State go to the desert in Glendale to face the Mackerel Snappers.
The Mackerel Snappers.
That is what the late, great John Woodside said. He is the father of the aforementioned Tom Woodside. That is what he would refer to Notre Dame commonly, as he helped shape some of my childhood.
Well, so, here's the deal in this game. These defenses are really, really good, and these offenses are not great. And Brian Kelly leaves Notre Dame for LSU. The defensive coordinator, Marcus Freeman, takes over at Notre Dame. So I even expect a better defensive performance. I saw him give a pep talk, and it was better than anything Brian Kelly has ever thought of in his entire life.
I don't know. His speech at the basketball game at LSU was pretty solid.
Right. The fakest accent you've ever heard in your entire life.
Got to appeal to the recruits' families.
He did try the John Robinson joke mid-season as well, which was kind of funny that it was taken so out of context and very, very poorly executed by him. But here we like Oklahoma State and the under. Anything else on the cap on this game?
Yeah, I have a lot of angles on this game. Actually, I love Oklahoma State being 10-3 against the spread, and the fact that 9 of their games went under.
Yep.
Very impressive. Notre Dame 9-3 against the spread. 6 of their games went under. I realize that's only half, but you start stacking those things up. I mean, these defenses can play. You've got a first-time head coach in Marcus Freeman having to play in the Fiesta Bowl for his debut. I think that's going to put a lot of pressure on him. He's going to want to be in his comfort zone, which is control the ball on offense, play tough defense. And that just points to unders. I don't think Notre Dame has played a tough opponent since Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
In looking at their season, that's kind of where things ended for them in terms of who's going to challenge them. And Oklahoma State is super physical. I mean, I was impressed with them all year long, particularly on the defensive side. Okie State 5-0 against the spread, their last 5 bowl games. The man at the helm has been the mullet man, Mike Gundy. How old is he now?
He's over 40. Okay.
Was he 55?
He's a man. Well, I think he's actually 50.
Okay. So that was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You've got that clip. The Cowboys, number 5 in the country against the run. Notre Dame going to be without Kyron Williams. Sneaky good running back for Notre Dame. Yeah. I know they've had a really strong pedigree of running backs over the year. He is really, really solid in the action I saw him play this year. I was very impressed with him. But the most impactful opt-out for Notre Dame is going to be Kyle Hamilton, their safety. That guy, I've been talking about him since the end of last year and certainly the first part of this year. He covers so much ground back there. He's the best safety that I've seen in college since Taylor Mays at USC.
High praise.
It is high praise. He's got like a wingspan that's like 8 feet. He just covers so much ground. He's not going to be back there. And that's a shame because I think Spencer Sanders is very susceptible to interceptions. I don't think that's going to be in play as much here because he's not going to be back there.
Yeah. And that's it too. Spencer Sanders just kind of inconsistent. Final point here, correlation or causation. Gundy cuts the mullet. They go to the Fiesta Bowl.
I'm going to say causation.
Okay. Yeah, I think so too. Cut your mullets, folks. You will make better bowl games. All right. We are going to take Oklahoma State there plus 2.5 and the under 46 for 1 unit each. Here's the Citrus Bowl. It's one of your alma maters, Iowa, plus 2.5 against Kentucky. the Wildcats, and the total is 44 in the Citrus Bowl. Here, Iowa has one of the worst offenses I think I've ever seen. And the only player that's good is not going to play in this game. The total's fairly low, but Kentucky just trounces them on offense, and the defense is close enough to put it in the wheelhouse. I know you really like Kentucky here. What do you got?
Love KY. Here's the deal.
This is the regular KY, everybody, not Western KY.
Here's the deal. I want to see these two teams play basketball against each other also.
Ooh, yes.
Kentucky minus the 2.5 for 1.5 units. Iowa coming into this game, 123rd in total yards gained.
That's bad.
Tyler Goodson accounted for 1,150 yards rushing, 250 yards receiving for the offense that came in with that. He won't be playing, and he's kind of all they got. That's a lot to replace. Who's going to pick that up? Whoever it is isn't going to be able to have very impactful stats against a run defense that was 17th in rushing yards allowed. I like Mark Stoops a lot. He's probably my favorite of the Stoops brothers because he's done the least amount to offend me. And he covers.
And he's built a great program at Kentucky.
I know. I was really surprised that he stayed at Kentucky just because it's a basketball school. But I really have a lot of respect for him doing that. Of course, he's going to get financial blessings as a result of that. But I think that's super awesome and admirable that he did that when you know that there were programs calling his agent saying, hey, can he come do for us what he's done for Kentucky?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. Anything else on that one?
Iowa seems to play in this game like every year.
Right.
I just don't know. Kentucky's close to Orlando, and I just don't think that Iowa fans are going to. I think they've probably done enough Epcot in their days. I don't think that they're going to be excited about this. They seem to have a season that's just perpetually stuck on repeat.
Yeah, you do get bowl tired head with some of these teams, I think, where it's, I don't know, man. I just don't want to go to the Citrus Bowl again, like whatever. And so I think that is into play here. So we are going Kentucky minus 2.5 for 1.5 units. Keep it under that field goal there. All right, to the granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. I know you've been to a Rose Bowl or two. Utah in this one, +5 against Ohio State. The total in this one is 67. I love Utah. I think Utah is playing like a top 5 team right now. They finished the season so strong. We played them for massive amounts of money against Oregon both times. The second one, I was so confused at how that line could be so low after they beat them so bad the first time. And so, Utah's playing great. Ohio State, probably disappointed at this point, expected to be in the national title hunt. CJ Stroud, great player. Chris Olave not playing in this one. Any other opt-outs, and what's your side of the cap here?
All right, let's go to the opt-outs. Ohio State. Garrett Wilson, out. Chris Olave, out. Nicholas Petit-Frere, is that how you say it?
Yeah,
Frere, the offensive tackle.
You are not French.
Out. Haskell Garrett, defensive tackle, out. They all opt out. I mean, I've got the computer sitting here open just to see if there will be another one while we're doing this podcast. It's ridiculous. And I think that's a slap in the face to what I would say is the best of the bowl games. I know that's not like some sort of going out on a limb to say that, but that venue, that stadium, it's second to none. I mean, it's awesome. Those Utah fans, they're different than BYU fans. They're crazy ass Utes, is what they are. They are going to leave Salt Lake City here probably today, tomorrow, travel to Hollywood, and they are going to be So excited. Utah's never been to the Rose Bowl.
Yeah. That was my thought. You know who wants to be there? Utah. You know who wants to play football? Utah.
No doubt about it. Ohio State could give a Utes ass, which is very clear for them. They are super talented. So let's don't go overboard on loading up
37
the Bruins
units.
truck there for Utah, because as you mean, I mean, CJ Stroud is amazing. He's a great quarterback. I'm glad that he is playing in this game. I know that he can't opt out for the draft, but it seems like players are just deciding, well, I don't think I'm going to play this game regardless. So Ohio State has much better offensive numbers than Utah, but I mean, that defense that the Utes have, 22nd at run defense, 13th in total yards allowed. I mean, I think ultimately the question should be asked to Oregon. Who's Oregon taking?
Yeah, no doubt. Utah +5 for a unit and a half here in the Rose Bowl. All right. 2 more bowls left, and we have a fun little parlay that we're going to throw out there, which we love the money line on these games here. But this one is down in the Big Easy. It is the Sugar Bowl on New Year's Day. Baylor +1.5 against Old Miss. And I'm sorry, I just said Old Miss.
It is. There's nothing old about it. It's old.
It's
Ole Miss.
Hey, ole. Ole Miss. 54.5 is the total. Love Baylor. I mean, Dave Aranda is amazing. They had some of the craziest wins this season. You know, they beat Oklahoma, just chaos on the field at the end of that game where Dave Aranda calls a timeout with 1 second left. His team's up 7 and kicks a freaking field goal. The referees make Lincoln Riley bring players back from the locker room to line up so that Aranda can kick the field goal. And I'm not kidding you. Aranda's affect never changed once. In that game, in the Big 12 championship game, he is the flattest, no nonsense coach I've seen in a long time. And I love Baylor +1.5 here. What's your cap?
Dave Aranda is not going to New Orleans to have fun.
No,
he is not there for the fun, or anywhere else for that matter. He's about business. That man is about business. We've been on Baylor more than we've been on the treadmill this season.
That's not saying anything, really.
That's not true, but it's close. I think that No Fun Dave is all about ball control. They don't turn it over. They play serious defense. The Melissa Stark fan club is all over Baylor.
Love it.
As they have been all season. This is just a hodgepodge of some of the greatest handicappers in North Texas, going by code names. There may be some lawyers in there. There may be some aesthetically beautiful people in there. But one thing I will tell you is they're all winners, and this is where they are going to butter their bread in the Big Easy.
Well, you know who is there to have fun? Lane Kiffin.
Lane Kiffin loves to have fun.
That guy will have some fun on you.
I think that he's had a hell of a season. I think that Dave Aranda looks at Lane Kiffin and says, bring it on.
Yeah.
I mean, Aranda was DC at LSU when Kiffin was OC at Bama. And I think that really got Aranda's competitive juices flowing.
Mm-hmm.
I think, again, you're looking at a game where the quarterback's the X factor, Matt Corral, awesome quarterback, great talent, love the way he plays. But Baylor's defense, really good. Don't jump off the page at you. Play assignment football. Take care of your gaps. Make sure you don't get beat over the top. 18th at stopping the run. And I think they get Bohannon back from his hamstring injury.
I believe that's true.
He was having a heck of a season. before that injury. I know he made some mistakes in the TCU game, but Ole Miss deficient at stopping the run, 102nd. I think that Baylor running attack's really going to set the tone here, and I think it's going to be pretty low scoring. I do think that. I know everybody likes to see Ole Miss scoring points and slinging it around a little bit, Lane Kiffin, but I think Baylor is going to have the better game plan because I think Dave Aranda is the best probably in the country at a game plan of control, more so than anybody else out there.
Yeah, he puts you in the Baylor box pretty well. So we'll go Baylor plus 1.5 for 1.5 units in the Sugar Bowl. The last bowl, Mr. Irrelevant, outside of the national championship, which is always relevant. But this is the Texas Bowl. He's so generically named Texas Bowl. LSU plus 3.5 against Kansas State, a total of 47. Here's one we wouldn't play unless we had to, and we do it all for you, the listener. We like LSU plus 3.5 for 1 unit. You know, in this one, really, it's more about taking the points. I think, you know, these two teams, it's a coin flip. LSU's a little better defensively. Kansas State's a little better offensively. LSU clearly with a stronger strength of schedule playing in the SEC, but Kansas State, you know, not too bad. 27th schedule in the country this year. Public all over LSU here as the dog, even though the line's moved the wrong way. So what's your cap of this one?
First and foremost, I just have to say that I right now feel like Coach O. Is this thing over yet? And by this thing, I mean this podcast.
I thought you meant the bowl season.
Have we hit 2 hours yet?
No.
This is like a Marvel movie.
Come on. Look, when you're giving such great content and entertainment, why not go a little longer? There's a lot of bowl games too, this little section here.
It really is. I feel like I should have some sort of water in here.
You need the beer hat with the 2 cans up top.
It's too early for beer?
No, never.
So Coach Kelly, Brad Kelly, will be coaching
Brad
the
Kelly.
LSU Tigers.
Go Tigers.
He's had Brian Kelly, no relation, looking over his shoulder pretty much all week. And this is according to Brad Kelly. He's invited his new boss, because I think Brad Kelly's being retained, to oversee and let him coach, but still checking things out. That's always kind of a weird deal. I think, as you said, they're getting 3.5 points. LSU fans already live in Houston. I think they're going to want to send off those players that have stuck around and really showed a lot of heart down the home stretch of the season. They scored a win over Texas A&M. They scared the hell out of Alabama in mid-November. And I just think that what they're looking to do is start off the Foghorn Leghorn Kelly regime.
Foghorn Leghorn Kelly.
That's what he sounds like when he talks.
Why I do say I'm the LSU coach today.
I think they want to start that off with a W. It helps retain players that may otherwise transfer. I know about the whole Max Johnson thing and the going to Texas A&M, and that makes all the sense in the world. But parents of players, current players and recruits like to see guys that embrace what they came to campus for. And I do think he's very good at that. Even though he's not very good at goodbyes, apparently, if you've seen that.
Or hellos.
Yeah. He's not the bread, he's the meat. And the bottom line here for me, again, it's only 1 unit. Kansas State played somebody the last game of the season and lost. Who was that team?
I believe that's the Texas Longhorns.
I think if you lose to Texas, you can't be backed in your next game.
And you can't be a favorite.
That's definitely the case. So yeah, give us the Tigers.
Go Tigers plus 3.5 for 1 unit in the Texas Bowl. That's the final bowl that we're going to cover here. But Brendan has a little saucy parlay.
We do like the New Year's Day parlay. we encourage all of our listeners and subscribers to participate in New Year's Day. I know too often people like to participate in New Year's Eve, but I will tell you that is amateur hour. That is for people who don't know how to have a good time the rest of the year and make a big deal out of one night a year because it's the last night of the year. So on New Year's Day, 3-team happy 2022 parlay, 3 teams, or a 3-teamer, I should say. Let's go Kentucky and Iowa under 44. Coupled with or triangulated with.
Sure.
How would you say that?
I think you got it.
The Utah Utes plus 170 money line and a Baylor Bears plus 110 on the money line. You can take that for 1 unit to win 11.4 units. I think that sets up your 2022 exactly the way you want to do it.
Sweet, sweet cheddar on New Year's Day. We're going to get out of here. Thank you, as always, Brendan, for all of your insight. Thank you to our producer, Mark Friedman and Frito Nations Productions. You know, get out there on New Year's Day, get your black-eyed peas, get your cabbage, win some money on these bowl games. Go to the website. It's linesight2020.com. And again, our next 10 subscribers will be entered into the raffle for a Linesight 2020 fleece and 4 tickets to an upcoming SMU basketball game.
And you don't have to go to the SMU basketball game with me.
That's right. You can just take other people.
That's how we should do it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. Keep listening.
Thank you, Frito.